Welcome to another Soytheist live stream. This is my first live stream from Bangalore, and so welcome. So today we'll be responding to an anti-vegan YouTuber who made a video about me. Now, so let's just get right into it. And if you're ready to get into it, let me know by dropping a comment. Let me know how you're doing and everything. Tell me about yourself. We haven't done this in a while. So drop a few comments. And with that, let's get right into it. So here's the video that the anti-vegan YouTuber known as Bobby's Perspective made about me, right? And here's the thumbnail. Here's the thumbnail that Bobby's Perspective chose for the video. So you can tell that he has some kind of problem with the fact that I had an LGBTQ plus flag in the background while I made that video, right? So that's obvious, but let's watch the video and find out what he has to say. So let's begin. And before we begin, I'd just like to say hi to everyone. Hello, Danielle. Hello, Cinnamon Dreams. Hello, Mariam. It's wonderful to have all of you here. Yeah, let's start. So here's the video. Opposing and trying to end carnism.
Yes, end
Veganism.
You will eat the bugs. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new, my name is Bobby. Guys, you wanted me to react to Soytheist. Those vegans, so original. Soytheist is apparently a vegan activist as well. And today we're gonna check out his video titled Vegan Explains Why Veganism is Not Moral. The little rainbow flag in the background tells me everything I need to know. Let's have a look.
Wait, how does that tell you anything you need to know? The only thing that tells you, right, is that I have no problem and I am in alliance with people who have that orientation, right? Now, it might seem like virtue signaling to you, but let me, you might not be aware of this, but in India, right, where I live, right, LGBTQ laws are not that progressive, right? So it's not an obvious thing that everybody supports, right? In India, gay marriage is not legalized, right? So you can't be married as a same-sex couple. So this is not mere virtue signaling. So you can't know anything from the flag. And even if I was located in the Western world where same-sex marriages are legalized, that too wouldn't tell you anything on the subject of veganism. These are two completely separate things, right? To make conclusions about one topic based on someone's view on another topic is group thinking. It's tribe mentality. And I suppose that tells us more about Bobby's perspective than the flag tells him about me, right? So anyway, let's proceed. Title of this video probably doesn't mean what you think it means. So don't rush to that dislike button. But it's also technically true. So I did not clickbait you. So again, don't rush to the dislike button. Vegans have a tendency of saying that veganism is the good thing to do, that it's the moral thing to do. Right? Some vegans tend to do that, right? And in this video, I explain why that is not true, right? So I don't see anything that's wrong up to this point. Everything seems factual and seems like Bobby agrees, at least until this point. So let's continue. But it's not. It's the neutral thing to do. Like, consider what neutrality means.
Wow, I never heard that one before. Woohoo.
On moral issues. Neutrality on moral issues.
Those vegans copy each other, but then they present their videos as if they're some sort of philosopher king presenting the newest ideas. Wow.
Means to okay. Thing about my channel is that I have never claimed that my videos provide some kind of novel idea every single time, right? That's not what my channel is about. My channel is about making existing ideas more accessible and turning them into more accessible forms. Now, the interesting thing that Bobby says here is that most vegans just copy each other. he does say that we copy each other. So there is the fact that these ideas are coming from vegans themselves, right? We are not copying them from outside, so to speak. Um, yeah, right. So even he admits that the ideas that is saying that we're copying from each other are coming from the vegan community itself. And it doesn't have to be that every time you speak, you must provide some kind of new idea. What kind of strange notion is that? All you have to do is you have to present a well-formed argument, right? That's all you have to do. And it's not clear why we need to present new arguments every time if our previous arguments have never been refuted, right? So yeah, we don't have to provide new arguments each time. That's just a very silly sort of silly take that he's making here. I suppose he's so triggered by the flag in the background that he doesn't even know what he's saying. Anyway, let's proceed.
Neither support nor oppose a given issue. In general, people, vegan or not vegan, tend to view eating animals as the morally neutral thing to do. But it's not. Consider what's going on when we eat animals. We actively fund these industries. We fund these industries that are responsible.
Dude, you are funding industries by vegan food. This is when you fund industries. But yes, I will agree. If you buy conventional meat, you are funding an industry. You're always funding an industry when you're walking into the supermarket. On the other hand, if you go to a family's farm, believe it or not, some of us do this, then you're funding a family.
Okay, so Bobby's perspective doesn't seem to understand what an industry is. Industry doesn't mean necessarily those big companies that produce things on a mass scale. Everyone who is producing something, right, or whether it's on a small scale or a large scale, is a part of a larger industry, right? When we say the animal agriculture industry, you might think of big factories with or smoke coming out of the chimneys. No, but it's not the case, right? All of these small outlets and those big factories combined together form the animal agriculture industry. So that's just him not understanding what I'm saying, but I suppose that is to be expected from someone who is a hashtag carnivore, as you can see here. But let's continue.
Massive animal suffering. Like we've clearly chosen a side there. We've chosen the side which causes animal suffering. How can that be neutral? Now consider what we're doing when we just go vegan.
And you just chose the side of human suffering. You're malnourishing yourself. How much do you weigh? 50 kilos? And on top of that, you chose the side of sexual
What does my weight have to do anything with it? So this reminds me of a quote by Christopher Hitchens, which goes something like, when they switch on to the ad hominem, I always take it as a sign of victory. I'm paraphrasing, but that's about it. But I could make comments too about his, but let's not go there, because that has nothing to do, or maybe it does have something to do with his diet, his head, I suppose, or the lack of hair on it. Maybe it does have something to do with his diet, maybe it doesn't. But that wouldn't refute his argument, right? And yeah, and his face is like a tomato. It looks like his arteries and veins are going, arteries are going to pop. So I could make these comments too, but that's not a valid criticism of his argument. So yeah, I'm not going to do that.
morality.
You're just saying to
Suffering
these industries,
plus suffering.
look, you're not going to get my money anymore to do these terrible things to these innocent animals. That's all. We've just chosen neutrality when we just go vegan.
Yes, absolutely neutral. I'm not going to give my money to the animal industry. Instead, I'm going to give it to Beyond Meat.
I have the habit
Sure.
of saying that,
Bill Gates, take my money.
I'm not giving my money to Bill Gates. The fact is, he is so used to, right, dealing with vegans and debating people, and he's just so used to supermarkets that he just doesn't understand that's not how most of the world lives. I live in India, and most of my shopping that I do, right, is in the local market right nearby me, where there are farmers who sell their products directly. And so yeah, so even if it were the case that sorry, that sentence is not going anywhere. So I'm not doing, like, his criticism, the very premise of his criticism is not true. But even if it were true, like, that's not the point. The point here is that when you buy animal products, right, you are giving your money for these animals to be tortured, right, for these animals to be killed, right, and that is what is immoral. You are supporting animal suffering and animal exploitation. That is the problem there, right? So yeah, but he says that I'm just giving my money to big plant agriculture industries. Even if I did that, right, that would still not be a problem. But I don't even do that, so I don't know. He's just used to it, I guess. He just has this this caricature of vegans, this model of vegans that he has in his head. And instead of arguing with everyone individually, what he does is that he just brings up that character that he has in his head and just argues with that instead. Right? This is just the symptom of not thinking critically. But I suppose I shouldn't expect critical thinking from someone like Bobby's perspective. That would be me not thinking critically, right? So yeah, let's proceed.
About this issue of veganism that you bring up. But while doing so, while I'm thinking, I will continue to eat animals. And if it turns out that
But I'm not thinking. I made up my mind. I was a vegan for 4 years straight. I'm not thinking one bit.
Did you catch what he just said there?
I made up my mind. I was a vegan for 4 years straight. I'm not thinking one bit about
He's not thinking one bit. Of course, you're not thinking one bit. But besides, that's not the point. I'm not talking about you, man. Everything is not about you. I'm talking about people who do say that, right? Believe it or not, there are other people in this world, right, who are not you. I'm talking about them.
going vegan. I'm gonna continue to eat meat. Thank you very much.
I must go vegan, then I will go vegan. But the thing is
Who's thinking like that?
that the default
You
position
can just see how he doesn't have any experience of people outside of himself, I suppose. So yeah, it's a strange character, Bobby's perspective.
cannot be violence. While you're thinking about whether or not you
Why not? The default position on this planet is violence. And I'm not talking about species internal violence. Of that you will
Why not? Why are you not talking about species internal violence? Right? There is a lot of species internal violence. Why are you not talking about that? Why is it that you draw the line at the level of species? There is a lot of species internal violence. Humans kill humans all the time, right? But we don't say, like, when someone does that, we don't say that that's the default thing to do, right? You ask, why not? Well, I can ask you the same question. Why not, my man? Why not? Why not talk about species internal violence, and why not treat that as the default thing? Because there is plenty of it. Just in the Second World War, people killed, like, tens of millions of human beings were killed, right? So why not be that the default position? And for the very reason that that cannot be the default position, for the very reason that violence cannot be the default position within the species level, it cannot be the default position when we go to the interspecies level, right? Species is simply not a good enough justification for killing other animals for the same, for killing other individuals, for the same reason that race cannot be a valid justification for killing other individuals.
see quite little. I'm talking about certain organisms
He's
eating
so unaware of the violence that goes on in the world. I suppose this is what happens when you're raised as a little mama's boy, protected from the violence of the world. But I suppose that's just him, right? That's how he was raised, as a pampered little mama's boy. So I don't know.
other organisms. Everything feeds on each other. Even your plants eat other organisms. That's life.
Have a justification
Sad.
to cause unnecessary
The history of human evolution has been filled with wars, with killing, with people just harming each other, people just massacring each other. That's just life, man. That's life. Russia invaded Ukraine about a month ago, and that human beings have been doing that for centuries, right? Before there were nation states, people were invading other tribes. Human beings have been doing that for thousands, tens of thousands of years. For hundreds of thousands of years, human beings have been enslaving each other for as long as we have existed, for a quarter of a million years. That's life. Sad. How ridiculous would that be if Putin used that as a justification, tried to present that as a justification at the United Nations for invading Ukraine? He would be laughed out of the room, right? But just because we've been doing that for centuries, something has been happening a certain way for centuries, doesn't mean that that is a justification for continuing that thing for centuries or even a moment more, right? So yeah, let's. Bobby's perspective doesn't understand history, doesn't understand sociology because he has been protected. He is a pampered little boy who has never seen the outside world, and who's Let's continue.
unimaginable animal suffering. The default thing to do while you're doing that is not to be eating animals still.
But listen, my little friend, this is where you get it wrong. I can look at you and analyze your hormonal profile without a blood test. Looking at your narrow
So you can just tell how unscientific this guy is. You can't just look at someone and make out their hormonal makeup, right? But yeah, I suppose to this pampered little boy who was just raised, protected from the world, who was, I guess, removed from school when he couldn't do science because he needed to be protected. He thinks that science can be done in this way. So yeah, I suppose that's just another symptom of another consequence of how pampered this little boy is. So yeah, I don't know. That's just how it is, I suppose.
shoulders and your almost non-existent chin, I can already say that you're low testosterone and very high estrogen. It is highly likely as well that you grew up vegetarian or that your mother was a vegetarian whilst pregnant with you. You are underdeveloped, and I'm not saying this to insult you. You can clearly see that you are malnourished. This is probably...
Okay, I'm not saying this to insult you, but you can clearly see that your arteries are going to pop. I'm not saying this to insult you, but you can just look at your face. It looks like a tomato, man. I'm not saying this to insult you. Eat some veggies, maybe. Maybe grow some hair. I'm not saying this to insult you. You can just look at you and just say that that's how it is, right? But yeah. That may be the consequence of your hashtag carnivore diet, right? Another thing, he says that I grew up vegetarian. It's interesting, like as if that had any validity, that had any effect on the validity of my arguments. It doesn't. But even that's not true, right? I grew up in a very sort of meat-heavy culture, right? India. Now some people might say, "Well, you're Indian. How is that possible?" The thing is that India is incredibly culturally diverse. If you sort of do not take into account the immigration, if you just look at the native population of the region, India is more diverse than all of Europe. So my part of India is an extremely meat-heavy culture, and I grew up like eating a lot of meat, and yeah. So I don't know what that has to do with the validity of my argument, but it's not even true. You're not doing very good, Bobby.
Why you don't understand that eating meat is a necessity for proper development.
All thing to do there is to say,
what's the source? What's the source for that? Let's hear that again.
To insult you, you can clearly see that you are malnourished. This is probably why you don't understand that eating meat is a necessity for proper development.
all thing to do
There is no source for that. He just claims it. I can say similar things. Eating Oreos this is the equivalent of him me saying that eating Oreos, according to Bobby's perspective, is an important thing to do for proper nutrition. It's not. I could make these absurd claims just like he is. Let's just check, just in case, if he has provided sources for this, right? Let's check. Here's my original video. Here's a paragraph. Here's his Telegram. Here's his referral link, and everything. There is no source provided as far as I can tell. Yep, no source provided. He just makes absurd claims and goes on. The typical pseudoscientific person, I suppose, just makes claim without any evidence.
Do there is to say, you know what, I don't have ample justification right now, so until I can
The justification is species-specific diet. Every animal on this planet has its species-specific diet, so does the human. There is a diet that aids human flourishing, human thriving, and spoiler, it's not veganism.
come up
What's the source for that? There is no source provided. So here's Bobby saying that veganism is not an adequate diet for proper nutrition. But there is, on the other hand, reputed institutions like the American Dietetics Association, the British Dietetics Association, all claim and all have made statements that a vegan diet is sufficient for maintaining your health, and is sufficient for all stages of life, for everyone, right? Including pregnancy, by the way. So yeah, I don't know where he's getting this, but again, I suppose it's pseudoscience because he couldn't do actual science, because again, he's a pampered little boy and must have been removed from school when he cried at the first hint of doing actual science, I suppose. And contrary to Bobby's perspective, unlike Bobby's perspective, I will provide sources for that. All the sources, both the sources, right, are linked in the description box right now. You can check them out after this live stream has ended. Oh, by the way, if you have any questions, right, or requests, or you just like to support the stream, do be sure to use the link in the pinned comment to make a donation, and I'll be sure to respond to every single donation, right? So yeah, let's do that, and I'll be responding to everyone.
up with a justification for contributing to this unnecessary industry,
Wow, man.
I'm going to withhold my funding from
It's
that
not
industry.
unnecessary.
Basically-
This is the lie that vegans tell you over and over and over again until they believe it. It is unnecessary. I have been a vegan for 4 years. Woohoo! You can do it too! Yeah, if you want to look like the Soytheist or Earthling ad, go for it.
You're unsure about this matter.
Okay, so I look similar to Earthling Ed. Is that what he's saying? Okay, is my internet connection slow? Wait a minute, what happened?
This is the lie that vegans tell you over and over and over again until they believe it. It is unnecessary. I have been a vegan for 4 years. Woohoo! You can do it too! Yeah, if you want to look like the Soytheist or Earthling ad, go for it.
You're unsure about
I'm going to take that as a compliment. Yeah, if you do want to look like me with a full head of hair and and don't want to look like you're about to burst any moment, then do try out a vegan diet, I suppose. Yeah, it could be incredibly healthy for you. Let's try it. Go try it if you aren't already.
this
Wow,
matter,
man.
you should be neutral on it,
Yeah, you should,
and you should be vegan.
you should be vegan.
Okay, so that's about
Now I understand why he calls himself Soytheist. Veganism is his religion.
veganism being the morally
Okay, here's the thing. As far as I know, right, based on what others have told me about him, this guy is religious, and we will see a hint of that later on, even in this video. This guy is religious, but he uses religion as a sort of an insult. If you're religious, that's bad. Do you see the irony of that? It always sort of cracks me up, I suppose, a little bit, that religious people use the word religious as an insult. So, like, are you pro-religion? Are you anti-religion? Which is it? Is religion a good thing? Is religion a bad thing? Make up your mind, man, before you start speaking.
Neutral thing. So what is the morally positive thing?
Tell
Well,
me.
it is to oppose animal suffering and exploitation. And you can do this
Then go into the jungle and do your activism there.
in a number
Case
of
closed,
ways.
everybody
The
wins.
most obvious thing to do is
So many things. These are like ground zero arguments against veganism. Like, these are like level zero arguments, right? The reason I wouldn't go to the jungle right now is because most of the animals who do the killing there, right, they're doing it for survival, right? They need it for survival. But Bobby's perspective, you don't, right? Most people in the world don't, right? They don't need it for survival. They don't need animal products for survival, whereas a lion does, right? So that's the reason that I wouldn't ask a lion to not. That's the reason I wouldn't stop a lion from eating a deer, because that's just two conflicting interests. But in this case, it's taste pleasure versus someone's life. And in this case, it's clear which is more important, right? So yeah. These are like level zero arguments, man. Like, read up before you come at me next time.
you can do your own activism. That's one way. Or you can do something similar to what you were doing when you were causing animal suffering. Now, what you could hypothetically do is you could give your money
Yeah.
to the side that tries to end animal
Yes,
exploitation.
give your money to Earthling Ed.
And now I am a soy boy because I love soy. Like, that's fine. I drink soy milk, I eat tofu. But the idea is being a soy boy, you're feminizing yourself, right? Because there's phytoestrogens in soy products, which there is.
So here are a few ways. You can donate to sanctuaries, the most obvious way. You can invest your money
So wait a second, I'm going to pay for sanctuaries where cows graze all day and then they die a natural death, which implies much more suffering than a bolt gun. Yeah, I'm going to do that.
grown meat.
He previously in this video, this guy talked about a species specific diet, right? And that's the best thing to do for a given species. So, but now when a cow is being sort of allowed to live their natural life and eat their species-specific diet, suddenly he's against that. He's like very uncertain. Maybe it's the effect of the #carnivore diet that he just can't make up his mind. We've seen this a couple of times now. But yeah, I guess that's just how it goes for him.
That's another way. And this is going to sound a bit self-serving because maybe it is. But you could also give your money to advocates and activists such as myself if you think we're doing good work. Like, for example, the reason
Amazing,
I'm
man.
able-
This whole video was about this. This is why I said those people have no new ideas. They have no original ideas. They simply copy the videos of other vegans that already get money for their activism.
to make
I mean, I'm just trying to make these ideas more accessible. I'm not asking anyone's money. Like, I'm not saying that they have to give me money, right? But it's just something I'm doing, and if you want to support me, you can provide money to me. That's all I'm saying. And he talks as if he doesn't do this himself. Let's just look at his sort of description. Everything here, most of the links here, except the first link, is to make him money, right? Everything here is to make him money. Everything is to make him money. So I don't know. You seem to be doing it too, man. But it's wrong. But it's okay when you do it, right? And even in my video, I say that it doesn't have to be me that someone gives money to, right? In fact, I say that you don't have to give money to anyone, any vegan activist at all. We'll get there. Let's proceed.
videos that I
You're
do
such a
make
little weasel, man.
is almost completely because of the support and kindness of my patrons. Now, it doesn't have to be me. You can give your money to any other activist or advocate.
Just give it to any other. Yes, of course, it doesn't have to be me, but because I said that, I seem even more benevolent and even more compassionate, and therefore you're gonna give me your money, yes.
Surely one way that you can help out this movement, and so forth.
Surely.
You see, we tend to view
The problem I see with this guy is that he just seems to view the negative in everyone, right? Yeah, all he can see is the negativity. When I say you can give your money to someone else, he just says that I'm just trying to make more money for myself. You can't just win against someone like this, right? No matter what you do, they're just going to find out a way to attack you. That's just how these people are.
veganism and carnism on a spectrum, but this is
Carnism is not an ism, veganism is. Carnism is an invention of the vegans. There is no such thing because it is the default position to eat meat.
I mean, the very premise of this video, the very explanation in this video is that eating meat is not the default thing to do, and I've made a case for why I make that claim. You, on the other hand, have not made any arguments. You've just resorted to personal remarks and personal attacks, and yeah, that's all you've been doing, right? So yeah, you're just making an assertion here, the very assertion that I debunked within my video. There's just such lack of self-awareness. It's just unbelievable at this point.
Every animal eats its species-specific diet in the wild. The cow grazes, the lion eats the gazelle.
He just said a while ago that cows eating grass would lead to more suffering, but now he shows that as a good thing. I mean, like, this guy is going like back and forth and back and forth. He just can't seem to be able to make his mind up. I don't know what his problem is.
The bigger fish eats the smaller fish, and we can eat everything. That's it. It's not an ism. It hasn't been conditioned.
The complete spectrum is supporting and participating in carnism, and on the other side, opposing and trying to end carnism.
Yes, end
Veganism.
You will eat the bugs. End carnism.
Before I end this video, I must state that I do believe that you should only have to be neutral on moral issues. Being neutral is the moral obligation. Did I just raise an eyebrow? You see, it's simple because there are just so many moral issues. You could not possibly be fighting to end them all, but you could be neutral on all of them. That is to say, you could, at the very least, be not contributing to them when you have the option not to.
Are you neutral on the wild? This is an honest question. Are you neutral on predators eating prey?
So while I do
Yes, I'm neutral. I'm neutral because on that issue, it is two conflicting interests. The life of the lion versus the life of the zebra. And these are like two conflicting interests. So I'm just neutral. I don't do anything in that case, right? And that's what I'm asking you to do. Be neutral on that, right? And when it comes to your own self, also be neutral and don't harm or you don't have to help. It's good if you help, but you don't harm or you don't help. You just stay neutral. I'm very neutral on the wild. He just seems genuinely very confused. Weird guy, I must say.
Maintain that veganism is the morally neutral thing. It is just the morally neutral thing. It is also just veganism that is the moral obligation. Doing vegan activism.
Why is it a moral obligation? You're a soytheist, not a theist. You probably don't believe in God, otherwise you wouldn't swing that sodomite flag there in the background. So why is it a moral obligation then? If there is no God, there is no universal morals, we can do what we want and we are just animals. Anyways, why?
Earlier in this video, if you remember, he was insulting me for using religious as an insult. But now it turns out that he is quite religious himself, right? So this is always the interesting thing about religious people to me, about how they use religious as an insult. But let's answer his question, right? Let's take it back a little bit and answer his question. By the way, if you do have any questions for me, be sure to leave them in a donation, right? Using the link in the pinned comment. And I'll be answering every single question or request that comes through the donation link during this live stream. So yeah, let's do that. But yeah, let's continue. Why isn't it loading? Okay. Let's try and... Can you still hear me? Am I disconnected? Because the YouTube video isn't loading. If you can hear me, please leave a comment. I'd like to know. Let's reload this.
Opposing and trying to end carnism.
Yes, and
Being neutral is the moral obligation. Did I just raise an eyebrow? You see, it's simple because there are just so
yes,
many
neutral on the wild. This is an honest question. But a theist, you probably don't believe in God, otherwise you wouldn't swing that sodomite flag there in the background. So why is it a moral obligation then? If there is no God, there is no universal morals, we can do what we want and we are just animals. Anyways, why do we have to give up meat?
and
Okay, there's so much to unpack there. At the end, he says, if we are animals anyway. But throughout this video, he has maintained that we are animals, right? He has said on multiple occasions that every animal has a species-specific diet, and they eat other animals. Some fish eat smaller fish, and so forth. But now he's just saying, if we are just animals. We are animals, man. Accept it. It's science. I know it's not something that that you might have been protected from, but we are animals. So yeah, that's one thing. The next thing he's asking is, why be moral if there is no God? Which is just such a ridiculous question. I suppose there are no ridiculous questions, but it reflects something about your moral compass, I suppose. It's because I don't want to. Like, the first thing is that I don't want to just harm others, right? For you to say that you would only be moral in case of the existence of a God is quite suspect, right? Of what you want to do, unless you were scared of some eternal being in the sky, some kind of celestial North Korea, which is like very interesting about and says a lot about your morals than the flag does about my morals. But let's take the sort of ontological question. Yeah, let's take the ontological question about why be moral if there's no God. What is the basis of morality if there in the absence of a God? Let's take that question, which is more interesting, I suppose. Okay, so everyone, right, has their own self-interests in mind, right? They have interest in their self-interests, right? Now, that is universal for everyone, right? Everyone wants their self-interests to be fulfilled. Now, if you're going to harm someone else, right? That someone else also has their self-interests in mind. They also want their self-interests to be fulfilled. Now, if you're going to harm someone, you're going to have to provide a morally relevant difference between you and that other one. Now, if you can't provide a morally relevant difference between you and the other individual whom you're harming, then it means by harming them, you are implicitly saying that it is also okay to harm you and stop your self-interest from being fulfilled. Now, that is in conflict with what you want, and therefore you should not do it. Right? That's just a very broken down, very simplified, oversimplified version of my sort of meta-ethics, if you're being fancy. So yeah, that's the basis of my morality. I would love to know what the basis of your morality is, which which leads you to the conclusion that two consenting adults doing their own business in their own private room, how you lead to the conclusion that's some kind of problem of yours. I'd love to know how you reached that ridiculous conclusion. So yeah, do let me know. It's an honest question.
Giving your money to activists and sanctuaries,
your money away.
and funding lab-grown meat. These are all good things.
That's very
These are
good.
all morally good things. But it's not necessary for you to do those things. It is not necessary for you to become a vegan activist. It is not necessary for you to give your money to
Yeah, this is what I said,
sanctuaries
right?
and
activists
and
This is what I was talking about. I said very clearly that you don't have to give your money to anyone in order to be a good person. It's not an obligation for you to give your money to anyone. But yeah, he was pretending that I was asking for money and that I was sort of demanding people give money, which is clearly not what I was doing in this video, right?
funding lab-grown
Just be
meat.
neutral, bro.
Those are moral virtues,
Just be neutral.
not moral obligations.
Yes.
At least that's what I think.
Oh,
What do you think?
what do you think?
Let's discuss this in the
Let's
comments.
talk.
I'll be in the comment section
Yes.
for a while after publishing
Okay.
this video. And if you think
All right, guys, and this is it. Wow, those vegans are truly something else. They're not failing to amaze me. Anyway, some of you suggested to invite Soytheist over on my channel for a discussion. You're more than invited if you see this video. All right, guys, this is it for today's video. If you liked it, leave it a thumbs up. If you have
Okay, I'm not sure if I want to go on his channel because he seems like very badly motivated. If it was like a genuine criticism of my video, then sure. But all he seemed to do in this video is just make personal remarks and that kind of stuff. So thank you for the invitation, but I do not debate protected little mama's boys who only make personal remarks about others.
haven't subscribed already, guys, please do so. And as always, may God bless you all. Much love and peace.
God loves you all except the homosexual people whom he created. It's such an interesting God. Makes people in a certain way, then he condemns them. What kind of God is this? It seems to be not a very moral God that this guy worships. So chat, I can see that there are about 38 of you in the chat right now. Should we watch another video? Earthling Ed recently published a video in which he debated someone on live TV, and I can see that a lot of vegans are responding to that, including Cosmic Skeptic and Lifting Vegan Logic. So should we watch that? I think that would be a great watch for this live stream. Let me know what you think. But yeah, anyway, so this is my new sort of location. This is my own home now. I've rented out this property. I live alone. And yeah, so how I'm going to decorate this soon. I think I'm going to put a fridge over there. And yeah. So yeah, let's, so how do you like the space? What should I put in the background? What would you like to see in the background? Let me know. Let's watch some Earthling Ed. Here's the video. Let's check it out. I haven't watched it before this, so it'll be fun watching it with all of you.
Let's try to settle the debate once and for all. Is it time to give up meat and turn vegan? Much has been made of the benefits of a vegan diet, but how much of that is fact? Well, to answer that, I'm joined by vegan activist Ed Winter, also known as Earthling Ed. He's a prolific public speaker who's been invited to schools, universities and businesses across the world to discuss the issue. While in the meat corner, I have Chris Snowdon, Head of Lifestyle Economics at the IEA. Ed, I'm going to start with you. Thank you for joining me today. Can you explain to me, you are a vegan activist. Sure. So it's not just a lifestyle choice for you, it's something you're very passionate about.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you envisage a world where everyone eventually embraces the vegan approach?
Well, hopefully so. I mean, obviously, I am aware that not everyone in the world is going to be able to make the options and, choose the choices that we have in the UK especially. But my hope is that in the UK, we'll shift towards a plant-based food system for all the merits that a plant-based food system would bring.
Just talk us through it then. So people watching this at home, they might not have heard of what the merits are.
Yeah.
Why is a vegan diet better for you than a meat-based diet?
Well, I mean, veganism is a moral philosophy. So it's about removing or at least eliminating as far as is possible and practicable the exploitation of animals.
Yeah.
So there's a moral obligation to it as well. But of course, it helps the environment, helps the planet, and there's also personal health kind of positives that can come from it as well. But it is about the animals fundamentally.
So, yes.
I love Ed. He doesn't make veganism about humans, which sometimes some vegan activists do, especially when they go mainstream on mainstream television. They start making veganism about themselves, not about themselves, about humans, which is something I do not like. So yeah, I love Ed for this. He doesn't do it, right? By the way, before we proceed, we do have a donation that I would like to read out. Hunter Toby has tipped $5 and says, "Love your content. Bobby is a waste of time. He is delusional." As I learned, that is the case, right? So yeah, that is truly the case. But it's good for a little sort of video after a long live stream after we haven't done this in a while. So yeah, thank you. Thank you, Hunter Toby, for the donation. If someone else wants to leave a message, ask a question, or make a request, please use the link in the pinned comment to make a donation, or you can even use the super chat feature on YouTube. Every donation is incredibly valuable. Thank you. But do keep in mind that when you make a donation through YouTube, I get to keep a smaller cut than if you donate via the link. Anyway, let's proceed.
You're not talking about from a personal point of view, from a selfish point of view. This is more a kind of a global perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it's about trying to reduce suffering wherever we possibly can.
And you take it further than just vegetarianism. So, I mean, I haven't seen, but I've read accounts of what goes on in abattoirs, and it does strike me as, to be honest, horrific. And but you would extend that to the use of animal products, for instance, when an animal's died of natural causes or something like that. That would also be...
Well, not necessarily natural causes. Of course, we will want to eat animals who have died of natural causes because of the diseases, but this is more about the human exploitation of animals. So not necessarily, an animal who's dead on the side of the road, but the farming of animals and, of course, the abattoirs that we use, even with dairy cows and egg-laying hens, of course, because all of those animals are also killed in the same slaughterhouses in the same way. So it's about that human aspect of the exploitation.
Okay, well, let me bring Chris in on this, because I'd be interested to hear the counter-argument to that. Chris, thanks for joining me today. Are you a big carnivore? Are you a big fan of meat?
Looks like it.
Big fan of meat.
And what is there to object to in what Ed is saying? I mean, it seems fair enough to me when he puts it like that.
Well, people make their own moral judgments, don't they? I'm not interested in what other people eat. If people want to be vegans or vegetarians or carnivores, it's of no concern to me whatsoever.
People make their own moral judgments. People can beat up a little child. People can beat up a little dog, a little puppy. People make their own moral judgments. I don't have anything to say about that. Well, why would I? So silly.
Hear the arguments. I make my own mind up. Everyone should be free to make their own mind up. So go for it. Whatever you want to do. My only concern about the veganism and vegetarian movement is at some point in the future, it is possible that these people will become a majority. And once you get a majority of people who think that something is ethically unacceptable, then there's a good chance they're going to go out and try and ban it. So I'm all in favour of people being vegans, but I'd rather they remained a minority.
What about what Ed says about the...
This happens with every social issue, doesn't it? Like this guy, I don't know what his name is. I forgot what his name is. But anyway, we'll find that out. But it happens with every sort of social issue. And this guy recognizes that it is a moral issue, right? So it's not talking about just being, it's just a diet or something like that. So on every other social issue, like at a certain point, the people who oppose a certain injustice are always in the minority. People who oppose slavery, whoops, hold on. I hope everyone can still hear me. Okay. So I hope, yeah, you were able to hear me all the time. So we just had a power cut, and it'll be back in a while. It should be back in like 15 minutes. But until then, I will have to be using the webcam on my laptop. So the picture quality is going to be slightly lower, but I hope you can hear me all well. And please let me know if you're able to hear me properly, because if that's okay, I suppose we can continue.
The animal rights aspect to this. I mean, to what extent? I mean, you say everyone should have their own right to make their own decisions about what they eat, and that's fair enough. But if we are according to animals their rights as well, don't they have to be taken into consideration to a degree?
I like this host. I really do like this host. He talks about the right of animals to their life instead of just talking about the right of humans to exploit. This is a good host. I like him.
No, I don't. I mean, I think animals are essentially there to be killed and eaten. So, I mean, that argument is never going to cut the mustard with me, particularly. Obviously, there are lines I wouldn't cross. I've never eaten veal, for example. I've never eaten foie gras. I think there's such a thing as unnecessary cruelty, clearly, and I happily sling people who torture cats and dogs and things in prison for quite a long period of time, not least because it's usually a pretty good precursor to being a serial killer. But I think in the natural world, obviously billions of animals are killed and eaten every day by other animals. I don't see any particular reason why they shouldn't be killed and eaten by humans.
So much to unpack here. He talks about how he will put people who abuse cats in prison, who resort to unnecessary suffering, into prisons. But he seems to be just fine, contributing to unnecessary suffering himself for his taste pleasure, which is quite interesting. Oh, and he also talks about animals killing each other in the wild. But, I mean, we've already talked about that. That's necessary. You killing other animals in this sort of urban setting is not necessary. That's the difference.
So this is going to be something, Ed, that you will face routinely, is that of course, Chris is arguing from a position of natural law there. We know we are on the food chain, are we not? There is something natural about eating meat. We have developed that way.
Well, of course, we've eaten meat for thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years, and it's been instrumental in human survival in times of food scarcity. But, the reference to other animals who eat other animals in the wild, well, they do that out of necessity. And the vegan argument is really that we don't have to do what we do to animals anymore, and that's why it becomes a moral issue. Chris said it was about unnecessary cruelty. That's why he didn't eat veal or foie gras. But of course, we don't have to eat animal products, so it's all unnecessary. And to a dairy cow who's killed for dairy, or to a pig in a gas chamber who's killed for bacon, that suffering to them is just as severe as the suffering to a geese or a duck who's been exploited for foie gras. So when we look at this issue from that of the individual who's suffering, we realize that it's all unnecessary, and that's why it's all immoral.
But doesn't your argument rest on the presupposition that animal life and human life should be seen almost on a par, and that rights are accorded to everyone, whereas Christopher's argument is more that human beings are more important than animals?
Well, we don't have to view non-human animals as being the same as human animals to understand why it's wrong to kill them. We just have to understand that their right to life and their right to their own autonomy transcends the reasons we use to exploit them. So taste pleasure, for example, or convenience. That's what we have to really kind of underpin with this conversation is there...
Yeah, it's not about one life versus the other, right? It's more about one life versus the taste pleasure of other. Like, vegans are just tired of explaining this all the time, right?
A right to life and the suffering they endure in farms and slaughterhouses worth more than our sensory pleasure. What has high value? life or taste fundamentally.
Okay, so Christopher, when you hear that argument, do you think that there is a case here that, I mean, Ed is trying to persuade people of his point of view. Do you think that's ever a view that people will buy into ultimately? Or is it just something too innate about our taste for meat?
Into it. There's more vegans than there ever been before. I think there's probably more vegetarians than there's ever been before. A lot of people get on and get off that particular bandwagon, but you can see how, you can see the argument. It's not like I disagree with the argument, really. It's just, that's the point of view, which I just don't hold it. And you'll never get me to accept that an animal's life is worth the same as a human's life. And I don't think it's something you can ever prove empirically either way,
What do you make of, I mean, there's obviously been a...
But that's just, Ed just explained that is not the view he holds. He just explained that, the life of an animal doesn't need to be viewed, the life of a non-human animal doesn't need to be viewed on the same level as the life of a human. All that you have to do is understand that their life is more important than the excuses that we use to exploit them. That's all.
Rise of very militant veganism, with people calling for veganism to be a protected characteristic within the law. Do you think that this is something that you understand in any way?
Well, not really. I mean, I understand there are vegan militants, and I think it's potentially quite a dangerous thing, because once you have a lot of people who think that animals' life, that chicken's life is worth the same as human beings, then I suppose they feel morally entitled to go around attacking people who rear chickens or whatever. And you get the similar kind of thing you do, of course, with the anti-abortion crowd, where you have abortion centres being set on fire. And that's why we need to respect each other's views without resorting to extremism, militantism, and violence. But if I may say so, the argument that meat is unnecessary and then therefore we shouldn't consume it, I don't buy into. And you hear this a lot from puritanical campaigners, that something is unnecessary. Alcohol is unnecessary. Tobacco is unnecessary. Music, I mean, most things are unnecessary. Human beings, one of the things that sets human beings apart from animals actually is that we have a lot of things in life.
If you were consuming alcohol and the consumption of alcohol required that someone has to be killed for that, then yes, then it would be a moral obligation to not consume alcohol. The thing about alcohol is that you're not harming anyone else when you consume it, at least not in every case. But when you consume sort of these animal products, it is necessarily the case that you harm others every single time you do it. Right? You harm an innocent animal, you kill an innocent animal, you exploit an innocent animal every single time you do it, and that's the problem.
That are luxuries and are unnecessary. We don't need them per se to exist, but they hugely enrich our lives, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's a good thing.
Ed, I want to ask you about that specifically. Is that Christopher is making this point that there are all sorts of things that we have that are luxuries. Sure. I mean, so that is a persuasive argument, isn't it?
Well, not really, because the things that Chris listed don't have a victim. Our choice of, the music we want to listen to or things like that, there's no victim at the end of it. But when we talk about meat, dairy and eggs, there's a victim at the end of that choice. The animals who are, of course, being exploited and killed, they're the victims. So when we talk about unnecessary action, from a moral perspective, it's about whether or not that action has a victim and that action is unnecessary.
Does alcohol and smoking have a victim ultimately?
But it's your own personal choice in that sense.
But there are people who are affected by your alcoholism and by your passive smoking, this kind of thing.
And of course, we should definitely be considerate of that. I'm not saying that we should ban smoking or cigarettes. I'm not even saying that we should ban meat, dairy and eggs right now. What I'm saying is that we should have conversations about the morality of these actions to determine whether or not we as individuals, morally speaking, align with that. I mean, Chris himself said that he would be outraged if someone did this to a cat. Maybe the Kurt Zuma case comes to mind. But the real question is, well, why is that wrong, but putting pigs into a gas chamber morally right? So why, where's that hypocrisy? Where does that come from?
You make a very persuasive case because we're sitting here having this discussion, but I mentioned the sort of more militant approach. Do you worry that when you have more militant voices within this debate, they're actually putting people off your argument?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I don't think that this idea of militant veganism is really representative. I think it's kind of a media talking point that's been blown out of proportion, to be perfectly honest. But I see it as also being something I can play to my advantage, because hopefully by having reasonable, constructive conversations, it shows to people that veganism isn't this extremist ideology. In fact, it's just this kind of extension of the values we already have. Yeah. How often do we hear that Britain is a nation of animal lovers and that we stand against animal suffering and cruelty? Well, I like to believe that's how people genuinely genuinely feel. So now all people have to do is recognize that their morality already exists when it comes to animals, that strong morality, and then work out whether or not the unnecessary exploitation, suffering, and death of 1 billion land animals, and when it comes to marine animals, much more, of course, in this country alone, aligns with that morality, or indeed is actually contradictory to that.
Final word to you, Christopher. I'm assuming.
So Ed, I like the contrast that is present in this argument. Ed is just explaining things so calmly here, while the other guy is just talking about vegans that are not there, right? Ed is arguing against the person who is there and making arguments, while the other guy there is just talking about some other vegans that are not even there, and is not responding to the arguments that Ed is making. It's very interesting to watch, really. Before we proceed, we do have another donation from DJ Lernal, who has donated $15 and says good morning. Good morning to you too. And if anyone else wants to make a donation, that would also be greatly appreciated. Please use the link in the description, link in the pinned comment to make a donation, which will be much appreciated. Thank you very much.
I mean, you're not persuaded by what you just heard there.
No, I'm not. I remain of the view that animals, for the most part, are there to be killed and eaten. Most of them have a perfectly good life. If you are a sheep raised by a farmer, you'll just be basically standing around in a field eating grass for a period of time, and then one day you'll get a bolt in the back of your head. It's a pretty painless way to go. Everybody dies. Ultimately, I don't consider that to be unnecessary cruelty. In actual fact, I think that a lot of animals get a better death than human beings do, but that's a different question. Maybe
human beings don't have their throats cut, obviously.
Well, look, I didn't expect for us to reconcile and reach a sort of agreement at the end of the debate, but I do appreciate you both coming on and sharing your views.
That's a nice end. I like how it gets the final word, and it's a good way to end the debate, I suppose. What else should we watch during the stream, folks? Is there something you'd like me to watch and react? Something that's been frustrating to you that you'd like me to react to during the stream? Because I could, right?
Let's try to settle the debate once and for all.
I just want to start by...
Has it made any new videos? Since the last time? Okay, I haven't never watched Gary Yourofsky's sort of famous speech. Should we watch that? That should be interesting. Let's do that, but I'm not sure when the electricity is coming back. It's been like 12 minutes, hasn't it? It should have been back by now. I hope it doesn't stay, like the power cut isn't too long. So yeah, let's do that, but if... we should be able to, let's see how much juice I have left in my laptop. It says about 54 minutes remaining on my laptop, which should be long enough for us to watch the video, right? So let's do that. Filters, view count. Okay, so here's the video. It's 1 hour and 10 minutes long. I hope the electricity is back before then. It should be. Let's do it.
I've always been broken from art to is it Gary.
My name is Gary.
Okay, here's the speech.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Gary Yourofsky. Please take a moment and jot down my email address and my website in case you want to contact me later on. Today we're going to talk about the world's forgotten victims, animals, and the world's oldest and strongest addiction, meat. I'm going to challenge your belief systems today, so certain parts of the speech will be intense. But let me start with a quick disclaimer. I am not here to be your enemy. The views expressed today do not necessarily reflect the views of your professor or this institution. I am not trying to take you away from your religion. No religion mandates meat eating. The golden rule states, do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. Animals qualify as others. And thou shalt not kill. The four most important yet most ignored words in all religious teachings. There's not an asterisk next to that commandment saying, unless you walk on all fours, have fur, feathers, horns, beaks, or gills. You can keep your friend.
I like how he's sort of appealing to the most sort of largest group, right? Because religious people are the sort of larger group, and he's sort of appealing to them first. But let's see where he goes with this.
Your politics and your patriotism. Still watch your favorite TV shows and listen to your favorite music, even if it's Ted Nugent. I'll be making some sarcastic yet truthful comments throughout the speech. Please feel free to laugh while I'm being sarcastic. Just don't laugh during the serious parts. Now, I'm going to speak for around 65, maybe 70 minutes, but then we'll do a Q&A session after for about a half an hour, so hold your questions until then. In the meantime, I have some rhetorical questions for you. Is slavery, owner, victim, profit, domination, exclusive to the human race? Have blacks, Jews, women, and children been the only victims of this atrocity? Have not cows been enslaved? What about pigs, chickens, turkeys, fish, sheep? If they're not enslaved, then what are they? Free?
No, definitely not.
Can slavery have a victim that is neither human nor animal? Have not the oceans, the forests, the earth itself become victims of ownership too? And what about a slaughterhouse? House of slaughter. Slaughterhouse. Do you really think there's such a thing as humane slaughter? Exactly what is your definition of humane? Besides psychological and physical abuse, torture, dismemberment, and murder, what else do you think happens to animals inside of a slaughterhouse? You think they get belly rubs and tushy slaps? And if you think there's such a thing as humane slaughter, I'm curious, do you also think there's such a thing as humane rape? Humane child molestation? Humane slavery? How about a humane Holocaust? In fact, what is your definition of a Holocaust? How about a humane Holocaust?
That would be like quite ridiculous, wouldn't it? A humane Holocaust.
In fact, what is your definition of a Holocaust? Is it a massacre of human beings or a massacre of innocent beings? I thought it was innocent, which brings us to the biggest Holocaust massacre of all. Every year in America, without mercy, we murder 10 billion land animals and 18 billion marine animals. Not for health.
You can't even imagine these numbers. Both of those numbers, 10 billion, 18 billion, together 28 billion, each of those numbers is larger than the entire human population. Just think about that.
Survival, sustenance, or self-defense. People eat meat, cheese, milk, and eggs for 4 reasons. Habit, tradition, convenience, taste. I want to define a word that might be new to some people right now, and it's vegan. It's up there on the screen, V-E-G-A-N. Vegans, like vegetarians, do not consume the meat of any land or marine animal. Vegans, however, unlike vegetarians, also refrain from eating cheese, milk, eggs, honey, or any animal product whatsoever. We also don't wear animal skins, no fur, leather, wool, silk, or down. Now, I want to let y'all know that I was not raised raised vegan. I ate meat, cheese.
Almost no vegan today is raised vegan, right? But in the future, I hope that there are vegans who will be raised vegans, because the world will be in large part a vegan world. That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Cheese, milk, and eggs for around 25 years. I used to wear leather shoes and belts and jackets like everyone else. In fact, around 20 years ago, I even owned a fur coat. Needless to say, I understand your lifestyle. It used to be mine. And for people involved in politics, let's get this out of the way right now. I am not a Democrat, an anarchist, or some hippie with a closet full of tie-dye shirts. I'm not a Republican, a socialist, or a fascist. I'm an activist. Root word is active. I've been banned from 5 countries so far and arrested 13 times for random acts of kindness and compassion on behalf of my animal brothers and sisters. If you want to read up about that, check out my website. And today, I would love to give you a chance to actually do something and truly get involved. Because I understand a lot of people want to get involved. Honestly, I do. But putting a coexist bumper sticker on your car, wearing a "What Would Jesus Do" bracelet, or sporting a peace and love and sunshine t-shirt, that is not getting involved.
Yeah, it's not. It's just virtue signaling, because then you're just doing lip service, right, without doing anything. Actually, you're not even without doing anything. You're doing something, right? You're causing harm. Yeah.
Understand that we're all on a journey in life. We all have different likes and dislikes, different nationalities and religions too. But there's one thing that we need to have in common with each other, and that's peace. Genuine compassion and genuine peace for our planetary companions. Contrary to political and religious dogma, animals do not belong to us. They are not commodities. They're not property, and they're not inanimate, stupid objects who can't think and feel. That Descartes Cartesian way of looking at animals like they're machines, it is outdated and, quite frankly, 100% insane. Because if we all understand that animals can use their eyes to see, ears to hear, noses to smell, mouths to eat, legs to walk, feathers to fly, fins to swim, genitalia to procreate, bowels to defecate, I'm always perplexed that most people don't believe that they can also use their brains to think, feel, be rational, be aware, and be self-aware. Am I supposed to believe that every body part on an animal functions just like it's supposed to, except the brain?
And that's an interesting point.
Those
right?
lies are fake.
Animals, everything within an animal works just like you'd expect it to, but the brain, the feeling part, the suffering part, that somehow is different. And it's ridiculous, right? So yeah, it's a good point.
The propaganda from the animal abusers is enormous. I mean, when was the last time you turned on TV and saw a commercial for shiitake mushrooms? People singing and dancing down the streets, having a good time, eating mushrooms. How about alfalfa sprouts? Quinoa. It's a seed. Radishes. Raspberries. Tofu. You don't see that stuff advertised on TV. What do you see instead? Have some more meat. Have some more cheese. Have some more cheese on your meat. Meat, cheese, double cheese, extra cheese. And how about a little more cheese with your meat? Have some more cow's milk. Have some more eggs. And then what do you see interspersed between those advertisements? Not feeling so well? Need to see a cancer specialist? How about a heart doctor? Need some Lipitor, Zocor, Crestor, Plavix? Need some diet pills? How about some energy drinks? Some Kaopectate, Tums, Pepto-Bismol. You've been duped. They're killing you, they're killing the animals, and they're killing this planet. And those blinders are on nice and tight. But if you give me an open mind today, that's all I ask for, an open mind, I'm going to take your blinders right off. My goal is simple. All I want to do is reconnect people with animals. Awaken some emotions and some feelings and some logic that has been buried and suppressed intentionally by our society.
Animal agriculture has like a lot of money, doesn't it? Right? They spend a lot of money just to sell you these products, and they just you have a lot of money to sell you these products and just keep you hooked, right? Which is a good point that Gary is making right there.
And the reason why I say reconnect, it's because each and every person in this room used to be a real animal rights person at one time, a true animal lover, and a real friend of the animal kingdom. And it's when we were kids. When we were young, when we were kids, man, we used to be in awe of animals. They used to make us laugh and giggle and smile. They made us pretty happy. And there was a time in our lives when we would do just about anything in the world to make them happy as well, to protect them from cruelty, or to at least acknowledge the cruelty they were receiving. I mean, if somebody was mean to an animal in front of us when we were little, we would have screamed and cried. And that's because we all used to understand right from wrong when it came to the treatment of animals, until somebody told us and taught us differently.
Yeah.
You better believe somebody told us to ignore their suffering, to mock and excuse their pain and their misery, to make fun of their very existence. And this is something I want you to focus on today, tomorrow, and beyond. What in the hell happened along the way? Who taught us to be so mean and nasty and vicious and hateful, or indifferent towards animals when they used to be our friends? These are innocent beings who have done nothing wrong to us.
Exactly.
Because I'm pretty sure we can all agree in at least one thing right now, that hatred in its purest form is a learned behavior. Racism, sexism, heterosexism, anti-Semitism, misogyny, these are all learned behaviors. When kids are 2, 3, 4 years old playing on a playground, they could care less about the color of their friend's skin or the religious background.
Exactly.
I don't think there's any doubt that hatred in its purest form is learned. So speciesism is no different. This could be a new word to a lot of people. It's up here on the screen, right below vegan. It's the word species, with an ism attached to it. And I want to define this word as the unethical, unprincipled point of view that the human species has every right to exploit, enslave, and murder another species.
Yeah, that's, I think, a
And all
good
because-
definition of speciesism. Wouldn't you agree? What do you think? Would you agree with that definition of speciesism? I know there are more technical definitions for speciesism, but I'd love to know if you agree with that definition.
We believe that our species is so more special, so more superior than the other ones. We're the only ones that count, and we're the only ones that matter. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that line of thinking, that thought process, that is the basis of all forms of discrimination. One group saying and thinking they're more special than everyone else, and they proceed to exploit them, oppress them, denying them their right to be free. They treat them like property. They enslave them in many cases, and in many other cases they murder them with premeditation and without penalty. And understand something essential about discrimination. It is never okay to be picking and choosing which forms of discrimination to be opposed to.
Yeah.
Which ones to say are...
Then that in itself would be a form of discrimination, wouldn't it? To say that, you know, this form of discrimination is okay, but that form of discrimination is not okay. By doing that, you are discriminating, right?
evil, racism. And which ones to say are okay? Speciesism. Discrimination is evil on its foundation, or it's not. Cannot have this one both ways. It doesn't work like that. I want to ask you to use some empathy right now. And when I say empathy, what I'm saying is place yourself in the position of the animals and start to view this issue from the animal's point of view, from the victim's point of view. When you examine any form of injustice, whether humans are victims or animals are victims, please remember the victim's point of view. If you are not the victim, don't examine it entirely from your point of view, because when you're not the victim, it becomes pretty easy to rationalize and excuse cruelty, injustice, inequality, slavery, and even murder. But when you're the victim, things look a lot differently from that angle. Now I want to show a graphic 4-minute video right now about what goes on inside of a slaughterhouse. I want to ask you not to turn away, not to close your eyes during this video. It's because if you choose to eat meat, cheese, milk, and eggs, I think at the very least you are obligated to see the pain and suffering you are causing. But if you do feel the need to turn away or close your eyes during this video, you might want to ask yourself a question. If it's not good enough for my eyes, then why is it good enough for my stomach?
Speech. Oh man, there's so much suffering there.
Do you ever wonder why McDonald's and Burger King and Wendy's never show you those images in their TV ads? Instead, they show you smiling cartoon caricatures of animals singing and dancing and playing, lying to you, brainwashing you, programming you not to care about things you would normally care about, things that you used to care about. Right now, at this very moment, on American highways, there are no less than 5,000 concentration camp trucks. Trucks that we've constructed. Inside these trucks, there are living, terrified, innocent beings. Cows and pigs and chickens. These trucks are being driven to concentration camp slaughterhouses that we've carefully constructed all across America. When the trucks arrive, the animals are so frightened, they won't even get off the truck. They're not stupid. They know what's next. So people go on the trucks with electric prods and force them to walk down the chutes to their own death. Or if the animals are small enough to manhandle like chickens, we'll just grab them off the trucks and toss them inside. Inside, these innocent living beings are hanged upside down, fully conscious. In other words, they go in alive against their will and come out chopped up into hundreds of pieces. But do you know what's more insane than that? Meat eaters. Walking around like their lifestyle isn't causing any harm. Like it's normal and natural to be consuming violence and death. How would you feel if the day that you were born, somebody else had already planned the day of your execution? That's what it's like to be a cow, a pig, a chicken, or a turkey.
I'm doing a reaction video here, but the speech is just leaving me sort of speechless, right? So I'm just watching, I'm just sort of taking it in. It's just so hard to listen and process all of this. It's my first time watching this speech, so yeah. Have you watched the speech before? If so, I'd love to hear about it. Do let me know in the comments.
On this planet. I think this type of behavior is inexcusable and unbecoming of a species that claims to understand right from wrong. The animals have not done one single thing to us to deserve the wrath and the cruelty that we hurl on them. And I hope y'all understand what I'm offering you today. When you hit the door after my speech, are you aware that for the first time ever, you can now directly participate in ending a massacre? Instead of sitting around and paying lip service to all the massacres and all the problems that are always going on this planet. What is so frustrating to me when I travel this country, doing around 250 lectures every year to some 7,500 students, is that everybody talks a good game. I've noticed that people are quite the smooth talkers when it comes to peace and compassion. I mean, people always want to tell me, never show me, just tell me how peaceful they are because of what they believe in or what makes them sad. Hey, Gary, I believe in God, and I believe in angels, and I pray all the time. And those earthquakes, the one in Chile and Haiti, oh, that was so sad. And no shit, it was sad. Since when does feeling sad about an obvious tragedy or believing in something make the world a better place or make somebody a good person? And listen, folks, I am not trying to dog you out when I talk like this. I'm not. I'm just not a politician. I'm not a bullshit artist. I don't know how to schmooze people, as you can see. It's kind of beyond me. Hope you appreciate my honesty and my genuineness today. And I'm not a salesperson. I got no books to sell you after my lecture. No DVDs and no documentaries. No collection plate going around. I don't want your money. I don't want your email addresses, and I don't want your mailing addresses. Keep all that stuff. I am here to talk about the worst form of cruelty and violence taking place on this planet, even though most people don't seem to care about it. But when you sit back in the comfort of your living room and you start condemning atrocities elsewhere, that is pure, unadulterated lip service. That's the definition of lip service. But veganism, this is now a chance to actually walk the compassionate talk that everybody's always talking about. This is your chance to show others how truly peaceful you are. This is a chance for a personal revolution, to leave your mark on this planet by causing the least amount of harm possible. Always. Being vegan. Now come on, what's the argument for not causing the least amount of harm? Inconvenience? Indifference? Apathy? Selfishness? I want you to know, I don't live in Fantasyland. I'm well aware that animals are suffering and dying just because we're here on the planet with them. We build homes through their habitat. We pollute their environment, destroy their habitat. Is there a reason we have to maximize the suffering? No. And maximize the cruelty and the death that they already endure by eating them on top of it all? No. You want to talk about pouring salt into somebody else's wound. 98%, and I repeat this stat, 98% of animals who are abused and killed on this planet are abused and killed by the meat, dairy, and egg industries. This is where all the harm is taking place. And in America, from birth until death, each meat eater consumes around 3,000 land animals and thousands of other marine animals. Those are USDA stats. And I seem to think a lot of people eat animals because we've all been told that humans are carnivores, we're omnivores, we're meat eaters, and we're supposed to be doing this. Are you aware that physiologically, the human body is actually 100% herbivorous? Plant eaters.
I'm not so sure about that. This is the first, I do hear this a lot. but I'm not sure how true this is. So, but let's hear what he has to say.
Our intestines are somewhere between 7 to 13 times the length of our torso, our trunk. That's the same length of all herbivore animal intestines on this planet. They're very long. But the length of the intestines on real meat eaters, hyenas, coyotes, bears, tigers, and lions, only 3 to 6 times the length of their torso. They have a short intestinal tract, so they can push through quickly decaying and rotting animal flesh, animal protein, cholesterol, saturated fat, trans fatty acids, which is why it is impossible, I repeat, impossible for any genuine meat eater to ever clog their arteries.
Interesting.
Never happens to a real meat eater.
Okay, before we proceed, we do have a super chat that I'd like to put on the screen. So the super chat is from Gruzi. It's CHF20. I don't know which currency that is, but thank you so much. Who says, hey, love your content. Do you have some advice to start activism on YouTube? Greets from Switzerland. Okay, I do have some advice. What you should do is you should do something that only you can do, right? Which sounds kind of vague, so let me elaborate. So the thing that if you're all trying to be if you all try to sort of copy Earthling Ed, right, then we'll get sort of nowhere, right? Because people will just watch Earthling Ed for the kind of content that you're producing. So what you have to do instead is you have to make content that Earthling Ed cannot make. So I make content like, about indigenous animal eating sort of. That's something that not a very, and I can say in those videos that, look, I'm an indigenous person myself. And so you can't say that I don't understand the experience. So that's what I do. There must be something that only you can make, or very few people can make, and you're one of those people. Try to find that out. Provide something different, right? And that's what will help you out. I hope that was helpful. That is just one advice that I can provide over the top of my head. But good luck, I suppose, and thank you so much for the donation. Let's put the original on the screen again. Pin comment. Thank you so much for the donation, Gruzi. And if anyone else has a question or thank you note or request, then please use the pin comment or the super chat feature. It is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much.
What's the #1 killer of humans who choose to eat meat, cheese, milk, and egg? Heart disease from clogged arteries, atherosclerosis. Humans and other herbivores, we sweat through our pores to cool ourselves. We don't pant like dogs and cats and lions to cool ourselves down. No claws on the human hand. Claws are a trademark of the carnivore and the omnivore. We have carbohydrate digestive enzymes in our saliva. Only herbivores possess that, meaning we're supposed to be eating tons of carbohydrates like fruits and vegetables. Our teeth, broad, short, blunt, flat, just like the teeth of other herbivores. And before somebody blurts out, hey Gary, what about these canines, dog? Most of the herbivores have canines, incisors, and molars. It would not be possible for us to be eating hard fruit like apples without those teeth. Our lower jaw goes from side to side in a grinding, chewing motion, like this.
Interesting.
We grind and chew when we eat. If you grind and chew when you eat like you all do, you are an herbivore. The jaws of carnivores and omnivores can only go up and down, vertically, rip and swallow. There's no chewing, grinding, side-to-side action. And I'm a fair guy. I mean, if somebody out there truly believes that humans are meat eaters, I'll give you 2 challenges to prove me wrong after class, and please do so if you want. I want you to go outside and locate a squirrel on campus. And when you spot that squirrel, put that carnivore speed into effect that everybody has and chase that squirrel down, pounce on him, and catch him in your mouth. No tools, no weapons, no cages. No one's allowed to be a cheater and a fake carnivore with this challenge. And when you are done killing the squirrel in your mouth, be my guest, eat the squirrel. Eyes, nose.
I'm not sure if that's a very good argument because I wouldn't be able to like grow crops and like eat most of the things that I do eat without sort of using my tools. But yeah, I don't think that's a very good argument. What do you think?
Nose, face, toes, tail, anus, inner organs, blood, fur, and don't forget about the brains. You don't get to pick and choose which body parts you want to eat, and you don't get to cook it either. If people want to be real meat...
Okay, I'll just be back right in like 2 minutes. I want to check what's wrong with the electricity, okay? I'll be right back. Don't leave. Okay, so I'm back. It looks like there really is no electricity. It's a long power cut, it seems. Doesn't happen very often. But if this persists, we'll have to close in like a few minutes because my laptop battery is like says 20 minutes remaining on my laptop battery. But we'll have to close the stream if the power isn't back. But until then, we can continue, right? Let's go on. And if you have any donations to make or any questions to ask or any requests to make, please use the link in the pinned comment. It really helps, right? It really helps to make more of these videos and live streams that you enjoy. But you don't have to, as I've already explained. But if you do have some donations to make, then yeah, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. I'll have to close the stream in a while if the electricity isn't back, but we'll continue if the electricity is back, all right? So yeah, let's continue, and hopefully the electricity will be back soon.
Eaters, I'd love to see people eat raw flesh from the bone, down to the bone, with nothing left but the bones, day after day after day. And challenge number 2, find a 2-year-old child. Place the child in a crib. In the crib, put 2 things, a live bunny rabbit and an apple. If the child eats the bunny rabbit and plays with the apple, send me an email, would you? Let me know, because I'm going to come back and buy everyone in this room a brand new car if that happens. Benzes and Beamers, leather interior too. In fact, next time I'm at Georgia Tech, if that happens, I will eat a steak sandwich in front of everybody, chase it down with a chili dog with extra cheese, a bucket of ice cream, and a bag of beef jerky too.
I suppose that's a good argument. It gets posted a lot, doesn't it? It gets posted a lot, like this quote that if you put a bunny rabbit and a carrot, a baby in a crib with a bunny rabbit and a carrot, if they play with the carrot and kill the bunny and eat the bunny, yeah, that's never gonna happen. It's a quote I see all the time. Didn't realize that it was from this speech.
And I'll take the jerky and I'll dip it in the ice cream and eat it like that. Now I would not hold my breath on these promises, not that I won't fulfill them, I'm a man of my word, but those things cannot and will not be happening because humans also possess 0 carnivorous instincts, 0 omnivorous instincts when we're born young and growing up. We're all born vegan. We just acquire a taste for meat, cheese, milk, and eggs after they're forced down our throats during childhood. Now, all I'm asking you to do is something normal and natural anyways. Eat what comes from the earth. Every vitamin, mineral, and nutrient that exists, protein, calcium, iron, potassium, all the B vitamins, they have an original source, and it ain't the animals. You are aware that people eat animals after the animals have already eaten from the earth. People eat cows after the cows eat up the grass, some of the soil. Then we ship them to a feedlot, feed them most of our corn, wheat, oats, and soy. Then we take more of the corn, wheat, oats, and soy, shove it down the throats of pigs and chickens and turkeys. Stop filtering your nutrients through somebody else's body. It's illogical and irrational.
Yeah.
What are those sources directly? Fruits, vegetables.
Like even if you just keep the animal ethics aside for even a moment, all right, even then it just doesn't make logistical sense to be eating animals, does it? Like, because then you're just growing crops to feed animals, to eat the animals, instead of just growing crops to eat the crops. It doesn't make logistical sense either. Just saying.
Nuts, seeds, grains, legumes. These things cannot harm you, cannot cause a disease, and more importantly, they harm no one else in the process. But when we consume what walks, what flies, and what swims, that is abnormal. Where does everybody think diseases come from? Broccoli? Asparagus, kale, collard greens, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, peaches, nectarines, grapes, bananas, avocados, onions, tomatoes, cucumbers, spinach. And in case anyone's wondering about those pesky little E. coli salmonella contaminations a couple times a year with the vegetables, let's keep in mind the one and only source of E. coli and salmonella: shit. Human shit or animal shit. Spinach doesn't shit. Broccoli doesn't shit. Peanuts don't shit. Let's stop blaming the plant products when there's an E. coli salmonella contamination. That's the fault of a meat-eating society. Why? Well, meat eaters want billions of land animals to eat, so we have to mass produce billions of land animals. Keep in mind, this has nothing to do with God, nothing to do with evolution anymore. This is a business. This is Smithfield, ConAgra, Purdue, Tyson, McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, KFC. That's why we have animal agriculture classes in college. So when we mass produce billions of land animals, they have trillions of tons of manure. That stuff gets in the waterways, and then there's runoff onto the crops, or they're putting feces, contaminated water, directly onto the crops. But all of our main diseases, heart attacks, and strokes. Most of the cancers: prostate cancer, colon cancer, breast cancer, pancreatic cancer, ovarian cancer, kidney disease, diabetes, osteoporosis, high blood pressure, obesity, asthma. 4 main factors that cause them. Now, I know about other factors. I'm not saying that you can't get sick elsewhere. Of course you can. Smoking, drinking, stress, chemicals in the environment, high fructose corn syrup, Twinkies. I know about the other things that can lead to an ailment, but the 4 main factors are found inside of meat, cheese, milk, and eggs. Cholesterol, saturated fat, trans fatty acids, animal protein. And I repeat that last one that nobody wants to hear about: animal protein. But when you go vegan, did you know that you eliminate cholesterol entirely from your diet? You can only get cholesterol from meat, cheese, milk, and eggs. And your body makes cholesterol on its own. That's the only such thing as good cholesterol. If you bring it in from an outside source, it's automatically bad cholesterol. You can take out around 95% of saturated fat when you go vegan, and you can take out all the naturally occurring trans fatty acids too. Keep this in mind: between 2 to 9% of all meat and all dairy naturally comprised of trans fatty acids. And you can obviously take out all of animal protein. Now, animal protein is way too acidic for the human body. We don't process it properly. It is the main reason why 1 in 3 meat eaters continually get cancer. And it's one of the main causes. Were you aware that when animal protein enters the human body?
Okay, this is interesting. I didn't realize that the Gary Yourofsky speech had so much to do with human health. This is like quite in contrast to what I had imagined it would be. But yeah, it's interesting to watch this video. Um, mm. But yeah, the electricity still isn't back yet. It's almost been over 50 minutes, I think. I hope it comes back in the next 10 minutes because that's when my laptop battery runs out. But yeah, let's see. So in the final 10 minutes of this live stream, I suppose, if you have any questions to ask, please use the link in the pinned comment. It would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. As you can see, I'm in a sort of new city and I'm having to spend some money. I'm like, it's not that you have to fund me, but it would be greatly appreciated. I have to buy some electrical appliances. I'll even maybe get a sort of backup power generator if I get enough money. But yeah, that would be greatly appreciated. So if you can help me out, thank you. And thank you to everyone who has donated so far. When I have enough money, I'll get a sort of backup power generator for these live streams so that I don't have to use my webcam. And I'm able to use a proper camera and I'm able to do this for much longer. Thank you.
It makes our blood acidic instantaneously, but our blood can't stay acidic for long or else we die. So our body has to figure out instantly how to neutralize the acidity. I have some good news and some bad news. Let's start with the good. Our bodies have figured out how to neutralize the acidity. Bad news. There's only one way to make it happen at this point. With phosphate. There's only one source of phosphate in the human body. Bones. Just so you know, our bones are comprised of two things. Calcium phosphate, and they're binded together. So our body leaches calcium phosphate out of the bones, takes the phosphate to neutralize the acidity, and then we pee out the calcium. This is why every single epidemiological study, those are the ones done on human populations, every single one shows that societies that consume the most amount of animal protein have the worst rates of osteoporosis, bone fractures, and cancers. While societies that consume little to no animal protein, the vegan and vegetarian ones, Hindus, Buddhists, Jains, Rastafarians, Seventh-day Adventists, have little to no rates of osteoporosis, bone fractures, and cancers. And so we don't get into a
Okay, folks, it looks like the electricity probably won't be coming back anytime soon. So I think we should close this for now so that we don't sort of have to exit in a sort of weird way. So yeah, it's been nice hanging out with all of you. Sorry for this horribly timed power cut. I'll try to get a backup power generator soon. It's been lovely hanging out with all of you. My laptop battery says that it has like 7 minutes left now, so I'll be ending this in like 2 minutes. Yeah, so just let me know how was the stream for you, and yeah, how was the stream? Let's chat for a while before I end the stream. Did you enjoy the stream? It's been like a long time since I did my last one, right? According to my sort of donation stream, the last one I did was like over a month ago. So thank you for being here. We'll be doing more of these. I'll try to do these at night because then there's like a lot less power cuts. Let's see, I'll try to manage something. Thank you everyone for being here, and I'll see you again. Goodbye. By the way, oh yeah, anyway, bye-bye. See you next time.